Imagine an area twice the size of Texas in the ocean. It was all garbage floating in a huge landmass, so thick that you can walk across it. This is actually the typical image that comes to mind when people mention the garbage patch. The garbage patch isn't a massive landfill of trash floating out in the ocean, but it's a very serious toxic pool of plastics that has accumulated in the Pacific Ocean. I've done a lot of research to expose the truths about the garbage patch and its effects. I'll be going over the size of the patch, the contents, and the impact it has on the oceanic environment. There's one patch in the Pacific Ocean that lies between the Hawaiian Islands and California. The other patch is southeast of Japan. I'll be referring to the patch that lies off the coast of California. The actual size of the patch can't be measured due to the ocean's currents, particularly in the gyres, where the currents all come together. Ocean currents create accumulation spots called gyres, where everything in the water emerges together. According to the National Geographic, ocean gyres are formed by circular ocean currents, global wind patterns, and forces created by the Earth's rotation. Since the ocean currents are continually moving, it's impossible to get an accurate measurement of these patches, but they're estimated to be roughly twice the size of Texas. While there's endless tons of trash, fishing nets, shoes, tires, and other debris, it's what's under the water where the problem really lies. Plastic microbeads in the water are creating a detrimental effect to oceanic life. Studies performed by dozens of independent organizations and government organizations have found very small plastics that are floating in the ocean currents. The currents break down the plastics into microbeads that have an average size of 5 millimeters. In every square kilometer of water, there's an estimated 13,000 to 18,000 microbeads. That's according to the Oxford Journal. For every pound of plankton in the water, there are 6 pounds of the microplastics. Vice, which is an HBO documentary dedicated to exposing the absurdities of the modern day condition, went on a study with an independent group, and they were dragging a small filter system behind the boat for 20 minutes. This is to determine the amount of plastics in the water, and it went from a 6-to-1 plastic to plankton ratio after a 20-minute drag to 100,000 to 1. 70% of the plastics sink to the bottom of the ocean floor, so they can't even be measured. So these numbers are coming from 30% of what's in the water. The majority of this waste is sitting on the bottom of the ocean floor. The plastics have been showing up in the oceans for over 50 years via drainage runoffs, landfills, fishing boats, ocean dumping, and numerous other sources. The U.S. alone produces 236 million tons of trash every year, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. Now that we're aware of what the garbage patch is made of, I'll move on to the environmental impact that this has created for our ocean's ecosystem. The impact this will have on the ocean's ecosystem will change it forever. Small fish are feeding on the microplastics, mistaking them for food. The small particles have been broken down into a dense chemical form, rolling around in the ocean's currents. The particles attract other chemicals in the water, like DDT, to become even more toxic to the fish. DDT is an abbreviation for dichloroldiphenyl trichlorethane. According to Natural News, between 1947 and 1971, a chemical company called Montrose Chemical Corp released an estimated 2,000 tons of DDT into local wastewater systems that led into the ocean. Larger fish feed on hundreds of the smaller fish in their lifetime, breaking down the chemically ridden food into their own bloodstream. Studies by Harvard have shown that sexual reproduction is being affected in the fish in these areas. They're only producing male eggs now when birthing. This can cause an extinction of a species and create a ripple effect in the food chain. According to the Oxford Journal of Bioscience, marine aquaculture, or food production from the ocean, will be necessary to meet the demands of the increased population in the next 30 years. In 2009, it was estimated that just Americans alone consume 4.8 billion pounds of seafood every year. Humans will become more and more dependent on the ocean as a resource for food, and since our water table is becoming increasingly unstable and farmable land is much harder to find, the ocean is going to be necessary for us for survival. The garbage patches can even change the ocean's ecosystem forever, and since it's a very delicate ecosystem, evolution and adaptation will be thrusted into fast forward, possibly not able for these species to recover in time. So to recap, I've gone over the size of the patch, the contents, and the effect it will have on the environment. It's been roughly estimated with the world's population today that every man, woman, and child living would need to remove 150,000 pickup loads of plastics from the ocean in order to remedy the situation. It's impossible to clean up this ecological disaster. Biodegradable plastics may have helped to fix the situation in the future, and hopefully the ocean can filter itself clean in the years to come, so we can continue to use it as a food source. If the ocean can't be used as a resource for us in the future, famine, plague, and economical disasters are sure to affect all humans. Okay.